Premier League predictions for the 2023-24 season. I know I'm 3 game weeks late, but I've been really busy last few weeks and I wanted to get to the end of the transfer window to really make a judgment in terms of new signings and stuff. So let's get on straight into my Premier League predictions because I really wanted to get them out before it's too late. But before we get started predicting the season, guys, do leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We've got weekly Chelsea match reviews and transfer news whenever it comes. So stay tuned for that. Now let's get into the Premier League predictions for this season, starting from bottom to the top. I think this season, last place are going to be Luton Town. Luton Town, of course, they're the fairy tale story of English football. They've come in from the National League up to League 2, League 1, Championship, and to the Premier League, getting back-to-back promotions in the process. But first 3 games we've seen, they've lost both of their games so far, especially against Stars, against Chelsea. That was a brilliant game. They're not fit. They're not fit yet for the Premier League, and I think they're going to be going down last. Now, next up in 19th, I think are going to finish Everton. Everton have been a club in steady decline for the past few years. Almost got relegated last season, but somehow escaped it, thanks to Doucouré. They've been trying to become a club like Villa and Brighton are now, challenging for the top, but they've just failed and failed. Their strikers are injured, they don't know how to score. They've lost, the only club to have lost all 3 games so far this season. I think Everton are going down this season. Moving on, in 18th place, we have Sheffield United, another newly promoted club. The last time they won the Premier League, they didn't do that well and got relegated soon enough. I think it's going to be the same case. They almost got a point against City, but then they ended up losing due to a late goal. Clubs like this with no ambition, I just don't think they can survive in the Premier League. I think Sheffield are going down. There's no talking about this yet. Moving on to Burnley. Vincent Kompany has led Burnley to the Premier League back up in 1 year. He's doing some good things, but I don't think it's going to click as well as it did for Wolves when they first got promoted, or Brentford. I think they're going to be the better promoted side, but they're still going to be very struggling, and I think they'll narrowly avoid relegation at 17th. It's been some good investments, some good signings, but as we saw with Forest last year, and Chelsea, even though they're not in the same tier, lots of investment can take time to settle in. So moving on, we have Wolves. This was a club I was going to place a bit lower in the table than 16th. But Gary O'Neill coming in, he's had a decent start even though they've been unlucky. I think he'll keep them out of relegation, definitely. But Wolves have also been declining steadily. They were 7th in their first season of Premier League. They were just the first outside the big 6 as soon as they got promoted, but then they've just been going down. And right now they've got no hope, no ambition. Ruben Neves left, Adama Traore is not there anymore, Jimenez, they are in a bad state. I just think Gary O'Neill will somehow keep the ship alive. They've got Matthias Cunha, he's been doing okay. They've got Hwang Hee-chan, he's like the star man I think right now. So I think they'll manage to stay afloat. Next up we've got Fulham. They had a great season last year, but now Mitrovic has left to Saudi. Willian might be leaving, he's a bit unsure right now, and they haven't made the best starts to the season, even though they got a 2-0 draw against Arsenal. That was good, but still I don't think they'll do as well as last season because they've gone down a bit and other clubs have improved. So I think they'll be finishing a good 15th. Next up in 14th is Crystal Palace. After being in the relegation scrap a bit last year, Roy Hodgson brought them back to like the mid-table range, and I think that's where they'll stay. They've got Eze or Lise who signed a new 7-year deal or something. Good youngsters, good squad. Just like every season, they'll finish mid-table 14th. Next up in 13th, we've got Nottingham Forest. Last year they finished 16th or something around that. They were in the relegation battle for most of the year, but I was sure they wouldn't get relegated. And they've got the new man, Avoni, fully fit, out of injuries. He scored in 7 games in a row. And next up they play Chelsea. He could definitely score there, even though I hope not. But they've finally, their 20 plus signings look to have settled in, and they've built a good squad. I think they'll be pushing for the higher mid-table kind of positions this year. So I think 13th will be Nottingham Forest. Moving on to 12th place will be Bournemouth. Now Bournemouth, everyone expected them to go down last season. They didn't. They made a lot of mockery of a lot of YouTubers about it. This season, new manager, I don't know his name. He's from La Liga. He's been doing good in the first few games. That's all I can say. The Liverpool game was good, and overall, he's doing much better, I think, than Gary O'Neill. Even though the Gary O'Neill sacking was undeserved, this guy isn't doing too bad. Philip Billings on form, Semenyo is doing good, Dominic Solanke is getting some goals in. He'll probably try to get double figures for the first time this season. So I think Bournemouth will stay around that range in 11th. Next up in the 11th place is West Ham. Now West Ham, I think, have been the surprise package of the season so far. They finished near the relegation zone. Many people thought they might get relegated, but they won the Conference League after, having finished in the top 7, top 8 last 2 seasons. And now they're, I think, pushing again for those European spots. They've won 2 of their games, they've drawn 1 in the first 3 games of this season. They're trying to replicate their last season's good form, and they have been doing that. James Ward-Prowse, excellent signing. After the sale of Declan Rice, they've reinvested that money really well. Edson Alvarez, he's surely going to play that Declan Rice role. And then apparently Kudus got announced yesterday. So there's that. James Ward-Prowse. The midfield is set. Jared Bowen is as good as always. Antonio has had a great start to the season. 2 goals already. I think West Ham are going to be the surprise package of the season. They're going to push for those European spots. But I don't think they'll be able to. I think they'll finish 11th. Because there's just too much competition this season, if I'm being honest. Because in 10th place are Brentford. Another club who've lost a big man in Ivan Toney, but he'll be back in January. I don't know if he'll play or if he'll be banned or sold or whatever by Brentford, the club. But I'm pretty sure they'll use Ivan Toney. He's too big of an asset to not use. But Mbeumo and Wissa are just taking his place. They've had a decent start to the season, and there's nothing to indicate that they'll go bad. So I think Brentford will finish a good 10. Next up in 9th is Aston Villa. You might be asking why they're so down in the table. I'm going to say it's not that Aston Villa are going to be bad. It's just that every club is going to be too good. You look at Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea, the 3 big clubs that struggled last season. All of them look back to normal this season. So you add those 3, and then you add Newcastle, Villa and Brighton, who rose last season. You have an intense European race. That's why I think Aston Villa will be the sufferers of this intense competition. They'll finish 9th. In 8th, I think, are going to be Manchester United. I'm going to get a full comment section of angry United fans, I know. But when I look at the other clubs and I look at United, I think even though they had a great season last season, they haven't improved from last season, in my opinion. They've made Mason Mount as a new signing from us, which Mason Mount really doesn't fit the Man U role. I don't get why they signed him. And next up, that Rasmus Højlund. I don't understand why they spent 70 million on a 20-year-old unproven striker. It's a Darwin Núñez kind of move. It may work, but it may not. But it's too risky. I mean, it's too risky than even Chelsea's transfer business last season. I don't understand why there's so much hype around this guy. He is not going to score more than 10 goals. There is no world in which this guy scores more than 10 goals this season. So that's why I think Man United just haven't improved. That is the only problem, and all the other clubs have. So that's why I think Man U have a chance of just getting leapfrogged by all the other clubs. Next up in 7th for Conference League football, I have Newcastle. You might be thinking, Newcastle dropping from Champions League to Conference League. Especially in the game against Liverpool when we see. I think Newcastle are going to struggle slightly in the heavy run of fixtures, Champions League, Premier League. Can Newcastle make it? I mean, you sometimes think, oh yes, Eddie Howe, they've got Tonali, Isak, Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon, they're all attacking well, their defense is okay, they've got Trippier, but their back four really isn't a top Champions League back four. Nick Pope is a good keeper, I suppose, but still not world class, even though he's good enough for Newcastle, I think. I just don't think, Newcastle's rise last season was like this, but I don't think it's gonna keep on going like this. It's gonna become like this season. I think they'll need one season to settle in and just they won't be doing a madness like they did last season. That's all I'm gonna say. But above them finishing, I think will be Brighton. They've had some smart investment. They sold Casado to us, of course, 115 million. Brighton keep ripping us off. And then they've got they sold McAllister, they sold one more guy, I can't think of his name right now. So they've got more than 150 million. They've made investments in unknown players, which I'm sure Brighton will make known in the Premier League this season, because that's what Brighton do. Under Roberto De Zerbi, I think Brighton are going to maintain their spot of 6th and finish in the Europa League again. 5th place this time, I think, is going to be Arsenal. 2nd to 5th is a big drop, but I think it's going to happen because Arsenal are another club who have invested, but I'm not sure how good the investment is. Apart from Declan Rice, they broke the British record at that time. Because, you know, we're Chelsea, we have to have the British record signing. We couldn't have let them do that. But they broke it at that time for Declan Rice. That is a good signing. But then Havertz for 65 million. Jesus got injured, and now they're just using Havertz at striker again. They're repeating the same mistake. The whole point of Havertz going to Arsenal was that Jesus was the striker, and Havertz would finally play deeper down the way he does. But he's being forced into striker again. I don't know how that's going to work out. And then Julian Timbers got himself injured for 7 months. So I think the investment's just gone haywire. All they have to rely on is the same squad as last season, plus Declan Rice, who's basically a Xhaka replacement with a slight bit more quality. So that's why, considering, as I said, Tottenham, Chelsea, Liverpool, all of them have improved, Arsenal are going to fall down out of the Champions League to 5th. In 4th this season, I'm going to have us. I think Chelsea, we are going to make it 4th this season. We are going to make the top 4. That first game against Liverpool was too good, guys. Let's be honest. I haven't been able to talk about any of the games, so I will now. First game against Liverpool was too good. Literally just too good. First game against Liverpool, 1-1 draw. We could have won it at the end, but we didn't. It's alright. The second game against West Ham, that second half was a shock. Right? That it was a shock, 3-1. But then that 3-0 against Luton, Sterling, Jackson scoring, Gusto coming in for Reece James, who's injured, I know. But then that Luton win, and then the easy run of fixtures has me motivated again. I think Pochettino is going to steer us back to normal, 4th place. In 3rd is the Harry Kane-less team, Tottenham Hotspur, with Ange Postecoglou at the end. Tottenham have had some good transfer business. Madison, they've recalled Udogie back from loan, who's having a great start to the season. Bissouma is doing good again, so is Sarr. Harry Kane's gone. They shouldn't reinvest the money right now, in that opinion, because they've got a lot less time left in the transfer window. If they try to spend 100 million right now, it's going to be haphazard. It's going to be a waste of money. So I think they just hold our money for next season, because this season their squad looks set. Richarlison is now going to have to step up as the main man. Madison is basically the number 10 of the team. He's doing pretty good nowadays. He's had a great start to the first 3 games of the season. I think Ange Postecoglou is going to bring Tottenham back to the level we know Tottenham in terms of challenging, you know, not winning of course, but challenging, being in top 4 every year, reaching semi-finals, you know, not winning of course, but just reaching semi-finals, that's good enough. So I think Ange Postecoglou is going to bring them back. It's going to be a very traditional top 4 this time, because 2nd I think will be Liverpool, again, because it's Liverpool. They always be the best of the rest, but still end up being 2nd. So yeah, I think it's going to be back to normal this season. Who knows what's going to happen to Mo Salah? That's still to be decided. But the attack is good. Midfield, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Enzo's still better than Endo, but whatever. Their midfield is set. Their defense is the only weak point, especially with Trent wanting to go up in midfield now. But if they can sort their defense and their red card problem, Liverpool are going to have a back to normal season. And then number 1 is just City, because it's City. There's nothing more I can say. I still think City will have a relatively bad season. You know, they'll have a very okay City season. But even an okay City season is good enough to win the league, because that's just how good City are. So, first place, I've got nothing to say. City winning the league. So this is my full Premier League table prediction for next season, like this upcoming season. Let's see how much I get right. We'll react to it at the end of the season, of course. So I'll see you for the next video, guys. Don't forget match reviews and everything coming really soon right now. Leave a like if you enjoy and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you for the next video, guys. Goodbye.